Alright, here we go. We're going to start Unit 2, Test Review. I'm going to go through all the problems. Don't worry about the one that says bonus because it's not a bonus, it's just a test review. So we're going to go through these problems and we're going to go ahead and try to make sure you hopefully understand everything that you need to know for this upcoming test. Alright, let's get it started. Okay, so number 1 says, make a conjecture about the next term in this sequence. You have -11, -7, -3, 1, and 5. So you can tell here that you're adding 4 each time. That's your pattern. That to me is really the conjecture, but they're saying the conjecture is the next number in the pattern, which in this case would be adding 4 to 5, and you would get an answer of 9. So there you go with that one. That's all you got to do. Okay, number 2. Okay, so for number 2, they want you to say if xy is equal to yz, then y is the midpoint of xz. Find a counterexample. Okay, and again, if you draw this out, I mean, yeah, it would make sense if you put x, y, and z all on the same line, that could work. But a counterexample, which is the answer here, is what if x and z were like, say, here, but y was over here, not on the same thing, so they're not collinear, so that would not work. So that would be your counter example. Okay, so number 3 says, what is the truth value, basically true or false, essentially, if the following statements. Square root of -16 is equal to, square root of 16 is equal to -4, and 2 is less than 2. Okay, so when you join those two statements together, square root of 16 can be equal to -4, but 2 cannot equal to 2. So since 2 does not equal, 2 less than 2. 2 obviously can't be less than itself, so then that makes this a false statement. So let's look at number 4. Write this in if-then form. All dogs have 4 feet. So if the animal is a dog, then it has 4 feet. If an animal is a dog, then it has 4 feet. 4 paws? I guess. I don't know. 4 paws. Oh, I'm sorry. It's supposed to be 4 feet. I was about to write paws. I got excited about saying paws. Anyways, you get the idea. Number 5. Let's see here. Identify the hypothesis statement. If you live in Chicago, then you live in Illinois. Again, the answer here would just be the if you live in Chicago. The part that's after the if is your hypothesis. So this part right here is your hypothesis. Alrighty? Okay, so we want to do a converse. Now keep in mind on a converse, it's supposed to go like flip it things. So like what was the if becomes a then, what's the then becomes the if. So if I say two lines are perpendicular to the same line, then they are parallel. So then I can say if they are parallel, then they are perpendicular to the same line. So that's just all a converse is. It kind of switches things around. They are perpendicular. That's an E. Just go with that. That's an E. Perpendicular to the same line. To the same line. So fairly easy. Nothing overly difficult there. Okay, so number 7 wants us to use the law of detachment to write a valid conclusion. If two angles are supplementary, then their measures must have a sum of 180. More specifically, x and y are supplementary, so then that means that angle x plus angle y is equal to 180. Okay, so notice how, again, with the law of detachment, the first statement is very general, and then the second part becomes more specific. And we're using that to help us come to a valid conclusion. Now with syllogism, we're trying to like join the two. So remember, like you have an if, a then, and then like if this is P, this is Q, then you're saying in the second statement, if Q, then R, then you're going to join these two. So it becomes if P, then R. That type of thing. So what does that mean? It means you're kind of getting rid of those Q's. But if you look at this one, if today is January 1st, then it is New Year's Day. If today is New Year's Day, then school is closed. So you could say if today is January 1st, like that, or January 1, then we already know it's New Year's Day and stuff like that, then school is closed. So you see, you basically get rid of that middle person, I guess you could say, and go from there. So there's number 8. Now let's look at number 9. Write the contrapositive of the following statement. Okay, so again, you need to know what a contrapositive is, and the converse switches things around, the inverse negates it, and then the contrapositive is switching things around of the negative, of the inverse. So we're saying here a figure is not a rhombus, then it is not a parallelogram, and we're going to switch it around. If it is not a parallelogram, notice how that not comes in there, parallelogram, then it is not a rhombus. So kind of make sure you got to know how to come up with the if-then statement. I will try to make sure I give these to you an if-then statement. Oops, I forgot the not a rhombus. And then know what you have to do to switch things around. Okay, so let's look at number 10. Make a conjecture about the next term in the sequence. 5, -10, 20, -40. It looks like they're multiplying by like -2. So then that would mean if I'm multiplying by a -2, multiplying by -2, -2, then -40 times -2 would give me +80. And that's my answer. Number 11, if m, okay, so we want another counter example. Actually, 11 and 2 are really the same thing. Apparently that came from, so I'm just going to say here m, n, and p are not collinear. As long as they're not on the same line, and again, what does it mean to be collinear? It means to be on the same line. Then you could argue that. What about number 12? What is the truth value of the following statement? Square root of 25 is greater than -5, or 3 square root of 3, or I'm sorry, 3 is less than or equal to 3. Okay, so the square root of 25 can be 5, so that means it can be greater than -5. And then 3 can be equal to itself, so then this one is true. Alright, number 13. Write the statement in if-then form. If an animal is a chicken, then it has 2 wings. That's all it is. If an animal is a chicken, then it has 2 wings. I have no idea why I decided to do that. Has 2 wings. There we go, and then you're done. So again, you should know how to do things into if-then statements. So let's look at number 14. Write the conclusion. If you live in Chicago, then you live in Illinois. Again, the conclusion happens after the then. So then you live in Illinois. And that would be your conclusion. That's your conclusion. Okay, so write the inverse statement. If 2 lines are parallel to a third line, then they are parallel to each other. So the inverse would say here, if 2 lines are not parallel to each other, then they are not parallel to a third line. Okay, so I was doing that one a little bit where I kind of accidentally got the thing switched around a bit, but if 2 lines are not parallel to a third line, then they are not parallel to each other. That was in the original order. Just make sure you note that on inverse we're negating, so that's where the nots came in. Okay, so notice again here, here's a law of detachment. We want, if a football team wins the Big Ten championship, then they will play in the Rose Bowl. Ohio State wins the Big Ten championship. So here we go again. There was the first one statement was the general. The second one gives us the specific. And so what does that tell us? That Ohio State can play in the Rose Bowl. or will play in the Rose Bowl. Play in the Rose Bowl. Okay, and that's basically it. That, again, is the law of detachment. So let's look at the next part, number 17, law of syllogism. Again, this is where we kind of get rid of that middle part. If today is Thursday, then Amy is off from work. If Amy is off from work, then she will go to the gym to work out. So if we join this, if today is Thursday, I got to learn how to spell today. If today is Thursday, and we're already establishing that she's off from work by the two statements. Now we're joining this together. Then Amy will go to the gym. Okay, so there we go with that. Okay, so if you look at 18, 18 says that if angle A is equal to the measurement of angle B and angle B, measurement of angle B is equal to the measurement of angle C, let's make a conjecture. Okay, so through the law of syllogism, then I can go ahead and make the conjecture that angle A, the measurement of angle A, must be equal to the measurement of angle C, because B kind of joins them. Okay, so we need to find a counterexample for number 19. If AB and CD are parallel, and BD and AC are parallel, then ABCD must be a rectangle. So yeah, I could go A, B, C, and D, or something like that, and make a shape like this. That would be that would be an example. But let's look at the counterexample. Could I have done something like this and still be A, B, C, and D? And yeah, I can. So this right here is my counterexample. It could be, instead of being a rectangle, it could be a parallelogram, or it could have been a rhombus. Anything like that would have been fine. Alright, so let's look at number 20. 20, okay. Okay, so on number 20, we're going to say that's a false, because, I mean, depending on how you want to argue that, a square has 4 congruent sides, yes. A rectangle has 4 parallel sides. That makes it sound like, 4 parallel sides. That's not a rectangle. That's just 4 lines. So I'm going to go with like that. I mean, you could have said a rectangle has opposite sides parallel, and that would have been more of a true statement. So you kind of just got to make sure you understand what they're saying. Be a little bit careful. All right, an elephant is a mammal in if-then form. If an animal is an elephant, then it is a mammal. Right? See, again, notice here that how we're just trying to say put these together, then it is a mammal. And there you go. Okay, so you can kind of see how that works. So let's look at number 22, write the contrapositive. And again, the contrapositive is where we take negate the negative statement, or like we're going to do the inverse, and then switch around the inverse. So what does that mean? It means that if I say if two angles are supplements of the same angle, then they are congruent, then I'm going to put knots in those and switch it around. So if they are not congruent, if two angles are not congruent, notice how I'm switching things around and negating it, then they are not supplements of the same angle. Okay, are not supplements of the same angle. So you see how that works. We kind of got that going there. And that's, again, just know what a converse, an inverse, and a contrapositive are. Okay, so 23, when we want to use the law of syllogism again. So again, keep in mind, syllogism, we're kind of joining the if-then, the if in the first one, and the then in the second one. So if x squared equals, if x plus 6 equals 10, then x squared is equal to 16. Notice how we joined those two together. Okay, so there you go with that. Number 24. Write a conjecture given that ABC is an equilateral triangle. Equilateral, means a lot of things, but okay, well, equilateral actually means that all three sides are equal. So then what we should say is like AB is equal to BC, which is equal to AC. Because when we say equilateral, by definition, we've got that right there. Okay, so we're saying A and B are complementary, then measurement of angle A is equal to 45. Well, we can find a counterexample on that. Counterexample there would be like, what if measurement of angle A was 30, then B would be 60, and they're both complementary, and not A would not be equal to 45. That is, by the way, a 30. That looks more like a 50. Whoops, let's erase that and put there a 30. Sometimes my handwriting is not the greatest. Okay. Anyways, almost done here. Number 26. Identify the conclusion of the statement. Either x equals 2 or x equals negative 2 if x squared equals 4. Okay, so that's basically saying if x is equal to 2 or negative 2, then x squared equals 4. Oh, no. I'm misreading it. Notice that if x squared equals 4. So you got to pay attention to that. So if x squared equals 4, notice how that was right after the if. I should read more carefully. Then x is equal to 2 or negative 2. So that means then this right here is the conclusion. Be careful, make sure you read carefully. Number 27, write the appropriate words to complete the statement. Write a converse. Converse, member, switches things around. So if two angles are right angles, then they are supplementary and congruent. Supplementary and congruent. Okay, so you can kind of see there what we can do there. All right, number 28. Determine which of the statements follows logically. If a triangle is equilateral, then it has three congruent sides. If all sides of the triangle are congruent, then each of its angle measures is 60. So we can use the law of syllogism to join those two together. If a triangle is equilateral, then the angle measures are 60, which would be choice D. Okay? Anyways, hey, that is it for today. Hopefully y'all can bring me some questions if y'all didn't understand anything, but I think y'all will do just fine. Anyways, I will see y'all next time, and y'all take care. Thank you so much for your attention.